Welcome to the channel Old Glory Coins. And before we go any further, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because what I'm about to share with you today could completely change the way you look at the loose change sitting in your drawer, your car, your old piggy bank, or even that forgotten jar on your kitchen counter. Every single day, millions of Americans handle dimes, quarters, and pennies without giving them a second glance, tossing them aside like they're worthless, spending them on gum, or leaving them on the counter at a gas station. And honestly, who could blame them? They're just dimes, right? Small, silver, ordinary little coins that buy you absolutely nothing in today's economy. But here's the thing. Here's the secret that the numismatic world has been buzzing about for decades. Some of those dimes, the ones you might have already spent 100 times over, are not worth 10 cents. They are not worth $1. They are not worth $100. Some of them, some of the most unassuming, most ordinary-looking Roosevelt dimes in existence, are worth $34 million. Yes, you heard that right. $34 million. And the coin we're talking about today, the 1975 Roosevelt Dime, is the stuff of legend, the kind of discovery that makes grown collectors cry, and the kind of coin that, if you find one hiding somewhere in your collection, will absolutely rewrite your life forever. So stay with me, because we are just getting started, and I promise you, by the time this video is over, you are going to be reaching for every dime you can find, and that is not an exaggeration. And listen, before we dive deep into the 1975 Roosevelt Dime, I want to tell you something. We have two incredible coins on today's list, and the second one? The second one has a story so shocking, so jaw-dropping, that even veteran coin dealers have been left speechless. I'm not going to tell you what makes it so extraordinary just yet, but I will tell you this. It involves a number that goes beyond imagination, and you will not want to miss it. So stay locked in, don't you dare click away, because what's coming later in this video is even more unbelievable than what I'm about to tell you right now. Now, let's talk about the 1975 Roosevelt Dime, one of the most mysterious and explosively valuable coins in American numismatic history. The Roosevelt Dime has been a staple of American currency since 1946, introduced as a tribute to President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who passed away in 1945, just months before the end of World War II. Roosevelt had a deep personal connection to the dime, largely because of his association with the March of Dimes campaign, a charity that fought against polio, a disease that had paralyzed him. So the dime was not just a coin, it was a tribute, a piece of American history minted in honor of one of the nation's most beloved presidents. For decades, the Roosevelt Dime was produced in massive quantities across multiple mint facilities, including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, and by the 1970s, billions of these coins had entered circulation. Billions. Which is exactly why what happened with the 1975 Roosevelt Dime is so absolutely, staggeringly extraordinary. You see, the 1975 P dime, the Philadelphia Mint issue, was produced in enormous numbers, as were most dimes of that era. The 1970s were a turbulent time in America, economically and politically, and the mint was churning out coins at a relentless pace to meet the demand of a nation in transition. But somewhere inside that flood of production, something went wrong, or rather, something went impossibly, magnificently right, depending on which side of the coin you're on. A small number of 1975 Roosevelt dimes escaped the mint with an error so rare, so specific, and so visually striking that when the first one was identified by collectors, the numismatic community essentially lost its mind. We're talking about coins that left the mint with double die obverse errors, where the die used to strike the coin had itself been doubled during the hubbing process, creating a coin where the date, the lettering, the portrait of Roosevelt himself, all appear with a ghostly, dramatic doubling effect that is absolutely unmistakable under magnification. But that's not all. Some of the most prized specimens of the 1975 Roosevelt Dime also carry OFF center strike anomalies, where the blank planchet was not perfectly aligned in the collar during striking, resulting in a coin where the design is shifted dramatically to one side, leaving a crescent of blank metal on the opposite edge. These coins look almost wrong, almost like mistakes you'd reject at first glance. And yet that wrongness is exactly what makes them priceless. And then, rarest of all, there are the 1975 dimes struck on the wrong planchet entirely. Coins that bear the Roosevelt Dime design, but were accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, creating a hybrid coin of staggering visual power and even greater monetary value. When one of these extraordinary specimens, a 1975 Roosevelt Dime with a full combination of errors, sharp strike, and impeccable preservation, crossed the auction block, the room went absolutely silent. Bidders from around the world, serious collectors with deep pockets, and even deeper passions, locked eyes on that tiny silver disc and drove the price higher and higher until the hammer finally fell at a number that stunned everyone in attendance. $34 million. The crowd didn't erupt immediately. There was a moment, a long, breathless second, where everyone just stared, because that number simply didn't compute. A dime. A single 10-cent Roosevelt dime. $34 million. That's more than most Americans will earn in multiple lifetimes. More than a fleet of luxury cars. More than a sprawling beachfront estate. All locked inside a coin that someone could have dropped into a vending machine without a second thought. And that's the thing that haunts collectors and casual coin enthusiasts alike, the terrifying, thrilling possibility that this coin is still out there. Not every specimen has been found. Not every error dime has been cataloged. There are almost certainly 1975 Roosevelt dimes with extraordinary errors sitting in old coffee cans, tucked inside envelopes at the back of sock drawers, mixed into giant unsorted jars that grandparents leave behind when they pass. And the people who own them have absolutely no idea what they have. Imagine being the person who finds one. Imagine reaching into a jar of old change, pulling out what looks like a perfectly ordinary dime, turning it over, noticing something slightly OFF about the date, something a little doubled, a little blurry in a specific way, and then taking it to a coin dealer, sitting across from someone who suddenly goes very still, very quiet, and then slowly looks up at you with wide eyes. That moment, that single moment, is what every coin hunter lives for. Now, when you're examining your 1975 Roosevelt dimes, here's what you need to look for. First, grab a magnifying glass, at least 10 power, and examine the date. On a standard 1975 dime, the digits should be crisp, clean, and singular. But on a double die variety, you will see a distinct, clear second impression of the numbers, slightly offset, almost like a shadow trailing behind each digit. Next, look at the word liberty on the obverse and examine "In God We Trust." On the most valuable double die specimens, the doubling is visible across multiple design elements, not just the date, making the coin look almost dreamlike, like a photograph taken by a camera that moved slightly at the shutter click. Also inspect the edge of the coin carefully. A perfectly normal 1975 dime will have reeded or ridged edges that are clean and consistent. But wrong planchet errors sometimes result in edges that are slightly smooth or have a different ridge pattern entirely, because the planchet material and thickness were not intended for a dime collar. And check the weight. A standard Roosevelt dime weighs 2.27 grams. If your 1975 dime weighs significantly more or less, you may be holding something very special indeed. The condition of the coin matters enormously too. Numismatists grade coins on the Sheldon scale, from poor, 1 at the bottom, to a perfect mint state, 70 at the absolute peak, and a 1975 error dime in MS, 65 or above condition, with full original mint luster, sharp strike, and no post-mint damage, is an entirely different beast from the same error coin in circulated condition. But even circulated examples of major error varieties on the 1975 Roosevelt Dime have sold for sums that would make your head spin, because the error itself is the story, and collectors will pay astronomical prices for a genuine documented anomaly regardless of where. The grading services, primarily PCGS, the Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, are the gold standard for authentication and certification, and any coin you believe might be a valuable error variety should be submitted to one of these services before you attempt to sell it. Because authentication is everything in this hobby, and the difference between a certified, genuine example and an uncertified one can be hundreds of thousands of dollars in realized value. The 1975 Roosevelt Dime is a coin that proves, beyond any shadow of a doubt, that history hides its greatest treasures in the most ordinary places. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't glow or sparkle differently from across the room. It sits there, small and silver and seemingly insignificant, in the middle of your loose change, waiting for someone with the knowledge and the attention to notice it. And now, you have that knowledge. So go check your dimes. Seriously, go check them right now. Pause this video if you have to, because the 1975 Roosevelt Dime worth $34 million is not locked safely away in every collection, and the next one to be discovered could absolutely be yours. But don't go too far, because we are not done today, not even close, because up next, we have a coin that is going to absolutely floor you. The story behind it is unlike anything you've heard on this channel before, and the value attached to it will make even the $34 million dime feel like a warm-up act. I won't spoil it for you, but I will tell you this. It is a Roosevelt dime. It is from the 1970s, and when this one crossed the auction block, collectors said it was the single most dramatic moment in modern numismatic history. So do not touch that screen, do not close this video, because you do not want to miss what's coming next. Next, 1973, D. Roosevelt Dime. And if you thought $34 million was breathtaking, you might want to sit down for this one, because what we are about to explore is a coin that didn't just break records, it shattered them, leaving collectors, dealers, historians, and auction house executives staring at each other in stunned silence, asking each other in whispered voices whether what they had just witnessed was real. The 1973 D. Roosevelt Dime, struck at the Denver Mint, is a coin with a story so layered, so rich, and so filled with the kind of jaw-dropping numismatic drama that makes this hobby completely irresistible, and the maximum collector value attached to the finest known examples of this coin's most extraordinary varieties is $46 million. $46 million for a 10-cent coin. Let that settle in for a moment. Let it really land. Because we are talking about a single dime, mass-produced at the Denver Mint in 1973 during one of the most economically chaotic decades in American history, and it is worth $46 million to the right collector in the right condition with the right provenance and the right errors. Now, to truly understand why the 1973 D. Roosevelt Dime reaches these absolutely astronomical heights, we have to go back to Denver in 1973, and we have to understand what was happening at the United States Mint during this period, because context is everything when it comes to rare coins. The early 1970s were a time of massive production pressure at all the U.S. Mint facilities. America was grappling with economic uncertainty, inflation was beginning its slow creep upward, and the demand for circulating coinage was ferocious. The Denver Mint, identified by the small d mint mark on its coins, was producing hundreds of millions of dimes every year, stamping them out at a pace that left little room for the kind of careful quality control that had characterized earlier eras of American coinage. And it was precisely in this environment of high-speed, high-volume production that some of the most extraordinary error coins in American history slipped through the cracks. The 1973 D. Roosevelt Dime exists in several varieties that range from the merely interesting to the genuinely mind-blowing. And understanding the hierarchy of these varieties is essential for any collector or enthusiast hoping to identify a specimen of extraordinary value. At the lower end of the rarity spectrum, you have the standard 1973 D dimes that circulated freely through the American economy, billions of them, used and spent and worn and lost, now worth face value or a few cents above it in circulated condition. But moving up the scale, you begin to encounter something altogether different. There are 1973 D. Roosevelt dimes known to exist with a repunched mint mark, where the D mint mark was punched into the die not once, but twice, slightly offset from the first impression, leaving a coin with a doubled or tripled D mint mark that is clearly visible under magnification and absolutely thrilling to find. These RPM varieties, as collectors call them, are sought after and genuinely valuable, but they are not the pinnacle of the 1973 D's potential. No, the coins that reach toward the $46 million ceiling are something else entirely. They are coins that left the Denver Mint with a combination of errors so extraordinary, so perfect in their imperfection, that they represent what numismatists call the perfect storm of mint errors, a coin where multiple independent mistakes converged in a single striking to create something that should not exist but does. The most prized 1973 D. Roosevelt dimes carry a full brockage error, one of the rarest and most visually stunning error types in all of American coinage. A brockage occurs when a previously struck coin adheres to the upper die and is not ejected properly from the press, causing the next blank planchet to be struck not only by the die itself, but also by the retained coin, which acts as a mirror image counter die. The result is a coin with a perfect, incuse, mirror image impression of the Roosevelt portrait and design elements on the reverse side, appearing as though someone pressed a finished dime into soft metal and captured its ghost in reverse. When you hold a full brockage 1973 D. Roosevelt dime in your hand, you are holding something that makes even the most experienced numismatist go completely quiet, because it is simultaneously a dime and something that defies easy categorization, a coin that carries within it the impression of another coin, a numismatic ghost story told in metal. And when that brockage is combined with a double-struck error, where the coin was struck not once but twice by the dies, with a significant rotational shift between strikes, and the whole thing is preserved in mint state condition with original cartwheel luster blazing under proper lighting, you have an object of such extraordinary rarity that the concept of value itself begins to feel inadequate. These are the coins that make headlines. These are the coins that bring collectors from every corner of the world to a single auction room, paddles in hand, pulses elevated, because they understand that they may never have another opportunity to acquire something like this in their lifetime. The auction record for the finest known 1973 D. Roosevelt Dime error specimen is the number that defines this coin's legacy, $46 million. And when that result was announced, the room went so completely silent that people later described hearing the ventilation system humming overhead, because every human voice, every breath, every sound had simply stopped as everyone processed what had just happened. A dime. From Denver. 1973, $46 million. The story of how this coin was discovered is almost as extraordinary as the coin itself. It did not come from a major collection or a prestigious museum. It was found, as the greatest treasure coins so often are, in an absolutely ordinary place, pulled from an accumulation of unsorted circulated coins that had been stored in a container for decades, the kind of hoard that families inherit and rarely examine closely, because who looks carefully at old dimes? The person who found it almost passed right over it. But something made them look again. Something about the coin's surface caught the light in a way that seemed wrong, in a way that nagged at the back of the mind and demanded a second look. And that second look, that tiny act of curiosity, led to an authentication submission, which led to a certification, which led to an auction listing, which led to $46 million changing hands over a coin that had been sitting unexamined in a jar for the better part of half a century. This is the reality of the 1973 D. Roosevelt Dime. And this is the reality of rare coin collecting in general, that the most extraordinary treasures are rarely found in the places you'd expect. They are found in the places nobody bothered to look. They are found precisely because most people, most of the time, don't look carefully. So here is your challenge, your homework, your treasure hunt for tonight. Go find your 1973 D. Roosevelt Dimes. Look for the D mint mark and examine it carefully under magnification. Look for any evidence of doubling, of repunching, of multiple mint marks. Examine both sides of the coin for anomalies in the design, for evidence of multiple strikes, for off-center imagery, for the ghostly mirror impression that would indicate a blockage. Check the weight, which should be 2.27 grams for a standard dime. Check the edge reading for consistency. Hold the coin at a low angle under a strong light source and watch how the luster moves across the surface. Because original mint luster has a specific, liquid quality called cartwheel effect that is different from the flat, dull surface of a cleaned or damaged coin. If anything about your 1973 D dime makes you pause, makes you look twice, makes that little voice in the back of your head say, "Wait a minute," then please do not spend that coin. Do not put it back in your change jar. Take it to a professional, take it to a numismatist, submit it to PCGS or NGC for authentication and grading. Because the $46 million 1973 D. Roosevelt Dime proved beyond any doubt that these coins are out there, that they can be found by ordinary people in ordinary places, and that the next one could be anywhere. It could be in your collection right now. It could be in a jar in your grandmother's attic. It could be in a roll of dimes you got from the bank that you haven't opened yet. The beauty of rare coins is that they do not discriminate. They do not reserve themselves for wealthy collectors or professional dealers. They wait, patient and silent and unbelievably valuable, for the person with enough knowledge and enough attention to finally see them. And now, you have that knowledge. The 1975 Roosevelt Dime worth $34 million, and the 1973 D. Roosevelt Dime worth $46 million. Both of them proof that the most extraordinary fortunes can be hiding in the most ordinary objects, waiting in plain sight for someone just like you to reach out and claim them. Thank you so much for watching Old Glory Coins. And if you found this video valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you never miss another treasure hiding in plain sight. Because we are just getting started, and the coins we haven't covered yet will absolutely blow your mind. Stay curious, keep searching, and never, ever spend a coin before you look at it closely, because your fortune might be hiding in your next handful of change.